Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown. Joining me is Andrew Meadows. Andrew, how's it going?
Going pretty good, man. Going pretty good. How about yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. We're recording this a little bit later than usual. I understand that you were a little under the weather for a couple days there.
Yeah, I apologize. I was deathly ill.
But you're good now.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good now.
Good. So this week we watched The Punisher, and interestingly enough, you actually finished the show before me, which...
That's a rarity.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty good stuff, I thought. I think you said as much as well, and we'll get into it in just a bit. We're going to start with our news. Starting with one of Disney's big upcoming releases, Ava DuVernay's A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah. Which
we got a second trailer for. This is a pretty interesting looking movie, I'd say.
It's definitely full of some CG. But you gotta kind of expect it with the material they're working with. I know I read this book in school. Did you read this book in school?
You know, I think I did. But watching the trailer, I gotta say, I don't remember anything.
No, I'm in the same boat. That's why I brought it up.
Cause I definitely recognize the title, and I feel like it had to have been something that we read in school, or at least dealt with in school. So maybe I was just a slacker and I didn't actually read it. I really don't know, because it's crazy, cause, I watched that trailer and there's not a single thing in there that stands out to me as like, oh, I remember that. Like it's not jogging my memory in the slightest, so.
Yeah, I know that there's three kids, and they're brilliant kids, and their dad's a scientist or something, and he leaves, and somehow the kids receive a message from him or something like that, and there's a Tesseract. I remember the Tesseract. Do you remember that?
I honestly just don't remember any of it.
Don't remember any of it?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So it makes me wonder. I'm like, shit, did I read this book? I really don't know.
I don't remember the three kids being warriors for light. I don't remember that at all. So, I don't know. It's a kid novel, so I imagine, it might be on my, literacy level. I might be able to reread it before the movie comes out.
All right.
But,
Ava DuVernay is fucking talented as hell, which to me is what makes this intriguing for me. I don't honestly think that the trailers have done anything for me as far as making me more interested, but I guess her kind of being the director on this does make me interested. She did Selma a few years back. I don't know if you saw that, but that was an excellent film. And she was actually, I think, flirting with Marvel for a little while there to do Black Panther, but I guess they had some sort of differences over kind of where they wanted to take it creatively. But clearly she got along well enough with Disney, and basically this is what she ended up doing instead of Black Panther. I think I saw something where she and Ryan Coogler, the director of Black Panther, were actually like kind of working in like offices like right next to each other, so they're always kind of poking their heads inside each other's doors. So it's kind of cool to see, or I guess to hear about something like that. But I'm keeping an eye on this one. This one comes out in March. I think visually it looks very flashy. The costume design looks pretty crazy and out there. So we'll see if it turns out to be a pretty cool movie.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be a visually stunning movie. I think it deals with interesting things, and I'm kind of curious to see if it's, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, right on. All right. So in other news, 20th Century Fox has announced that they are working on a follow-up to Murder on the Orient Express, our main topic from, I guess a couple weeks back now. So they're looking to do an adaptation of Death on the Nile, another Agatha Christie novel featuring Hercule Poirot, the detective that we saw in Orient Express. I feel like I've heard of this one before. I don't know if maybe it's just in the research of doing for Murder on the Orient Express, but as is the case with that film, I had not read the novel, and I haven't read the novel for this one, but it sounds like they're still trying to work to get Kenneth Branagh to come back to not only play Poirot, but also to direct this one as well. And obviously it seems like Fox is pretty happy with, I guess, probably the critical reception and the box office reception that Orient Express got.
Interesting enough, this one takes place on a cruise ship.
And if I recall correctly, I think there actually was a nod to this at the end of that movie, which I kind of just assumed it was kind of more of a fun nod for fans of the source material more so than like an actual sequel bait kind of thing. But clearly Fox is happy enough that they're willing to bring all the parties back, that were involved in that and get them all on board for this. So, I know, I guess a brief summary of kind of how we felt about Orient Express is I think we liked it, but we didn't love it, but
I would go see a sequel.
Yeah, it certainly didn't do enough for me to dissuade me from catching a sequel or anything like that. So, yeah, I agree. All right, moving on, we've got a few pieces of news that are all Marvel related. So the first one is also from Fox. They've been working on a fucking Gambit movie for ages now. Channing Tatum has been attached for, it feels like a decade now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And it's kind of been like, oh, it's happening, it's not happening, it's happening, it's not happening. Apparently it's happening. So, I said Channing Tatum still attached to this. I think they got, Gore Verbinski to direct this. He's signed on to direct this. And, they've now announced that, Lizzy Caplan is going to be playing the female lead in this of, Belladonna Boudreaux, who, I think is kind of like an ex-lover of Gambit. And, I know at least, I actually watched the 90s X-Men show. I watched I think the first couple of seasons of that not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago.
Right.
And I know she appeared in one of those episodes as kind of like a villain type role where she was trying to win him back over and bring him back because Gambit and Rogue were a big thing in that 90s show. So I don't know if they'll do anything even remotely along those lines, but that's kind of my only really frame of reference for her character. But I do like me some Lizzy Caplan, I will say that. I'd say I think probably most prominently now she's in Masters of Sex as one of the leads with Michael Sheen, which I haven't watched, but I've heard very good things about. She was in Cloverfield. She's in, I think, probably one of the funniest shows I've ever watched, Party Down, which is fucking amazing. So, Janice and Mean Girls. We can't forget about Mean Girls.
No, you can't forget about Mean Girls. I was gonna say that.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with this. I think this is good casting. I am not sold on Channing Tatum as Gambit, and I've totally softened my stance on Channing Tatum, but for me, I guess Gambit's kind of a smarmy character, but I still see a leading role of Channing Tatum of Gambit as being more serious than it is comedic, and I think that Channing Tatum shines brightest when he is kind of leaning into his comedic sensibilities, because I think he has some of those, and the acting sensibilities are largely deficient. But it could be good, I guess, right?
I guess. Yeah. There's plenty of other people I could see playing Gambit, but like all things, I guess we'll see how it goes. Fox is behind it, so
they could bring Taylor Kitsch back.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Maybe we should just pretend that movie never existed, that X-Men Origins Wolverine, for the uninitiated.
That was a rough movie.
Yeah. This thing has gone through so many iterations that I don't know if they're trying to perfect it, or I don't know what the deal is, but we'll obviously be keeping an eye on this one as well, and kind of seeing where it ends up. So in other Marvel casting news, and then this is over in the world of Marvel Studios, Captain Marvel with Brie Larson has found a new cast member in Jude Law, who is going to be playing, he's officially announced as Dr. Walter Lawson, and basically that's a human alias for Mar-Vell, who is a Kree, which is a blue alien. And basically, he's, at least in the comics, obviously it remains to be seen how they handle it as far as the movies, but he's very heavily involved in Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel's, origin story as far as how she gets imbued with these cosmic level powers.
Fuck yeah, man. Jude Law. I like Jude Law.
Yeah, I feel like Jude Law kind of disappeared. I think what was it, probably the early 2000s, seems like he was in fucking everything, like AI, and then he kind of blew up for a little while there, and then he kind of just seemed like he didn't really do anything for a while. But last week we talked about the Fantastic Beasts sequel. He's Dumbledore in that, and he'll presumably be Dumbledore in every other, movie they make in that franchise, which is supposed to be 5 movies. So it seems like Jude Law has either hired a new agent or something's happened, because this is a pretty big get, and so is that, and I'm cool with it. I like me some Jude Law.
I think my favorite Jude Law movie, though, was Gattaca. God, it was so good. Did you ever see that?
Oh yeah, Gattaca's fantastic. I actually, tell you what, we're talking about things that we did or anything in school. I actually watched Gattaca for the first time in school.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was probably one of the few movies in school that I'm like, yo, this shit is legit.
That movie makes me cry every time I watch it. It's so good.
It's a really good movie. Yeah, 100% agree. Jude Law's cool. I'm really happy with this. Captain Marvel is coming in March of 2019. This is interesting. It takes place in the 1990s, before any of the other Marvel movies are really set. I guess aside from the first Captain America. But, I guess probably before a lot of the usual heroes that we see gathering in the Avengers and stuff like that. So, I'm excited about this. And if Wonder Woman was any indication, audiences are hungry for female-led superhero movies, and certainly in the case of Marvel, where we've had to this point 17 movies, and by the time Captain Marvel bows, it'll be, I think, past 20. Yeah, it's about time, guys. I guess Ant-Man and the Wasp sort of counts, but not quite to the extent I think that Captain Marvel does. So, better late than never, right?
That's it.
Cool. All right, last bit of Marvel news, and this is going to be a part 1 of 2 for us. So, Avengers: Infinity War. The marketing machine is finally revving up on it. And, so to start off with yesterday, the 27th, we got, some Vanity Fair covers that basically showed a lot of the principal cast from the movie. We were getting, everyone. I mean, this movie is kind of what Kevin Feige refers to as kind of the culmination of the Marvel Cinematic Universe until this point. So every major player is involved. So on this cover, we're seeing Captain America, Vision, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Hawkeye, War Machine, Iron Man, Falcon, Black Widow, Thor, Hulk, Black Panther, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Star-Lord, Doctor Strange. These Vanity Fair covers, I gotta say, don't really do a whole lot for me, but it's getting me excited knowing that there's some serious shit coming for Infinity War, and we'll touch on that. But, you take a look at these covers?
Oh yeah, it's, I'm with you. They didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, it's just pictures of...
It's people standing around in costumes.
That's it, but, it is exciting to think about all these people coming together in one movie. It's gonna be interesting to see how they handle it, because there's independent movies for just about a lot of the characters anyways, so for them to each, and I guess it's gonna be a 2-part movie, so they can divvy up a lot of the time, but, it's gonna be interesting to see all these characters bounce off of each other in a full-length movie.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, so the more interesting, probably news that's come out today is that we got the first official teaser poster for Infinity War, which doesn't really show a lot. It's very much in line with what we got for teaser posters for both the first Avengers and for Age of Ultron, where you've got the A, you've got some different colors going on. This one says Infinity, May 4th. I mean, it's a simple poster, but again, it's enough for me to think, oh man, it's coming. And May 4th is really not that far away. And this is such an event movie. I'm excited to see how it turns out. And I'm also excited to see what kind of box office numbers this thing could be looking at.
Oh, it's going to be absurd.
It just seems like this has got the right formula, and just even putting the Avengers plus Guardians of the Galaxy in the same movie alone, I feel like that's enough, I think, for pretty much anyone.
Just think how long they've been building this. I mean, how old were you when Iron Man 1 came out? How long ago was that?
2008.
2008. So, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, we're verging on a decade here, and it will be a decade by the time Avengers comes out. Because I believe Iron Man, if I recall correctly, was May of 2008.
It's hard to think about how long they've been building this universe, in a cinematic sense. It's
unprecedented.
It is.
And it's all the more impressive when you think about how they've basically managed to maintain the same quality all the way throughout. But I digress. The Infinity War trailer is coming tomorrow.
Which would be Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday the 28th is when it'll be coming out. I don't know if they've announced the time on it, but they did release this little trailer tease that a lot of it's just kind of like fan reactions and some footage from all these movies, Iron Man on, just kind of building to this point. So I don't know, man. This thing might break the internet.
It's gonna be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm super stoked to see this trailer. So they said this is part 1. He said the machine has started for this, and it's gonna rev up in a big, big bad way on the 28th when that trailer drops. So, be sure to check back next week, and we'll have our thoughts for the full trailer. As of now, we don't have anything to share on that front because it's not out yet, unfortunately. Alright, moving over to TV news. Got, an announcement from DC that, they're working on a half-hour animated project, centered around Harley Quinn. Not a surprise, given that Harley Quinn has, well, I think she's probably been a very popular character all along, but certainly with Suicide Squad, her popularity has blown up. I tell you, I mean, we've ragged endlessly on Suicide Squad, but I think that Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is fine. I think she definitely looks the part. I think she acts the part well enough when she's not given trash lines like she was through most of the movie. But yeah, I mean, this is coming to DC's digital platform, so they're doing their own fucking streaming service like everyone else is, of course. This is the third series they've announced for that. They're doing a live action Titans series, I think based on Teen Titans, and then they're reviving the Young Justice TV show, which I know a lot of people love, and I've never actually had a chance to watch. So, is this anything that interests you, the Harley Quinn show in particular?
I picked up a Harley Quinn. She was involved. I think it was Batman and Harley Quinn, I think is the name of the movie.
Yeah, that's the latest DC animated film they've put out. Yeah, have you had a chance to watch it?
I did. It was good. There's a distinct difference I think it's probably because DC is much more involved. I don't know. But there's a distinct difference between their cinematic things and their animated things.
Oh yeah, big time.
Their animated things are really well done. I also picked up, one had Constantine in it.
Oh yeah, the Justice League Dark.
Justice League Dark, and that was fucking awesome. That was really cool.
Yeah, no, DC's animated output is, by and large, been very good. I think The Killing Joke.
It was I saw that in theaters. It was a little strange, but
yeah, had its issues of its own. It's a discussion for another day. But no, I would agree. By and large, DC's animated output has been really good overall, and certainly compared to their cinematic counterparts, it's fucking night and day.
Yeah, which I did not know they were launching their own streaming service, but the fact that their animated series are so good. It actually makes me interested to look into the streaming service because, I would probably subscribe to a streaming service full of DC heroes.
Yeah. It's just like you said, if the quality is there, then fuck yeah, I'm on board with this. I don't think there's any details on, when they're launching it other than sometime next year or, how much it'll be or anything like that, but I'm down for this. Harley Quinn's not my favorite character by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it has potential. From what I'm reading here, it sounds like they're going to bring in some other DC characters into the fold, Poison Ivy, some other heroes and villains, and I think that'd be pretty fun, definitely. So, yeah, we'll see how long it takes to come out. All right, just to preface this, this is a story about two shows that I haven't watched, or one I have kind of watched, and then the other one I've never watched. But I figured it's worth kind of throwing our hat into the ring on this one, just because I kind of want to see where we weigh on these shows. So we're talking about The Walking Dead, and it's a spinoff, Fear the Walking Dead. And so they've kind of announced that there's going to be this crossover between the two shows in the form of Lenny James's Morgan character, who is going to be crossing over from The Walking Dead Prime over to Fear the Walking Dead. So as far as the crossover itself, I have no input on it. I think I vaguely remember the Morgan character, and I've kind of vaguely followed the major events of The Walking Dead, but I have actually not watched past the first season of it.
I don't know what they all blend together. I haven't watched it in some time, but I think I watched up until season, I want to say 5. Alexandria is the last area that they were into in The Walking Dead when I quit watching. But I have not seen any of the Fear the Walking Dead. I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I knew that you had watched kind of further along in Walking Dead than I did. Is it something that you plan to go back to?
No, I think I like zombies just as much as the next guy. I really like zombies. But it gets to be where you're kicking a dead dog.
That's kind of the general sentiment I've heard with Walking Dead, and it's kind of what I've gathered as much looking in, because it does seem like on the surface like a show that would be like, I fucking eat this shit up. It seems like it should be that, but it's just not. And like, I'm only working from the first season is what I've actually had, sat down and watched. But, I would say that the pilot of The Walking Dead is one of the best television pilots I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, it's fucking cool, man. It was really good.
Like, it's fucking incredible. And I think the first season was 6 episodes, I want to say. And the quality drop off between episode 1 to 6 was so staggering that I had no interest in coming back. And for me, that's impressive, because I've sat through some shit. Believe me. I've sat through some shit. And it wasn't the worst thing I was ever seeing, but it was such a drop off from, the highest high to some of the lowest lows. And it's just, everywhere I turn, I talk to people and everything like that. It just kind of seems like there's not enough there for me to kind of really involve myself in the shows. And it's weird because I do think it is something that I want to enjoy, and I very well may enjoy it if I do end up giving it a fair shake at some point, but there's nothing there that's like, there's so much other shit I'd rather watch. I mean, I fucking sit through the CW stuff. I'd rather watch the CW stuff than sit down and get into The Walking Dead. And like doesn't that seem weird?
Yeah, it's I can tell you sitting through seasons 1 through 5 or whatever season I ended up leaving it in. There's high points to the seasons and there's low points like everything else. But the fillers in between and everything else, they get monotonous. And it's just the structure of the show makes it monotonous. You know what I mean? The characters that you follow and everything else, if it was not serialized or something like that, or maybe if you revisited other characters after seasons, maybe it'd be more interesting. But I don't know. My input is probably not very valid, other than I personally feel like after however many seasons it's on now, I don't even know what season it's on now, but I don't need any more of it,
Yeah.
I have my fill. And I don't think that a crossover does anything for me, because essentially I do know what the not the structure, but I do know the premise of Fear the Walking Dead versus The Walking Dead is they're on separate coasts of the United States, which, okay, that doesn't really do anything for me. I don't need an additional show set within the same universe with zombies. You know what I mean? I don't need that. So, I don't know. I'm not very interested in it if it's gonna cross over. Woohoo. I'm sure it's gonna please a lot of people, but it's not gonna please me. It's not gonna get me back involved in the show.
Yeah. I mean, I said I don't really have anything to comment on the actual bit of news itself, but I did kind of want to touch on The Walking Dead because it is such a huge event television series, and for as much as we try to cover, it's definitely something that really seems to have fallen by the wayside for both of us. And so I thought that was interesting. I thought it was at least worth mentioning, and may very well be the last time we mention The Walking Dead.
Although it's worth noting that Shane is played by the Punisher in our main topic, and he plays a good role in The Walking Dead. I think he probably contributes to the awesomeness that is season 1 in a big way, in my opinion. My most memorable experience with The Walking Dead actually involves the main character, the Punisher. I mean, it was outstanding, the performance given in the part that I'm referencing. He beats the fuck out of this guy. He beats him down hard, and it was a very passionate beatdown, and it stuck with me. I can thoroughly remember it, and that was from The Walking Dead. When I think of Jon Bernthal, I think of his role in The Walking Dead and him beating down Ed. Do you know what part I'm talking about?
Ed was beating on his wife, right?
Yeah, Ed was beating on his wife, and he said, if you touch her again, Ed, I'll beat you dead. That's what he says. And
so you don't fuck with a man that rhymes like that.
No, right.
All right, last bit of news, and I'm only going to briefly touch on this as well. I guess I just mentioned the CW shows, but at the time of the release of this episode, the big crossover between all the 4 shows is going on right now. It's entitled Crisis on Earth X. So, you're talking Supergirl, Arrow, Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow, kind of doing this 4-part crossover, combining all their characters, and they're basically trying to stave off an invasion from a alternate Earth that features basically looks like Nazi versions of all the superheroes.
Oh, okay.
So it's propelled the CW to their highest rated night in over 6 years. So clearly fans are well on board for this. I've heard pretty good things from about the first part that's aired as of well, I guess 2 parts have aired, but I've not really seen anything about the first part at the time of recording. I'm excited to I still got to catch up.
Oh shit! So you haven't watched any of them?
No, I'm still well behind, and I'm not going to jump ahead a few episodes and watch this, because I'd rather just watch everything in order and get to it when I get to it. So I can't talk about any of it, and I probably won't be able to talk about any of it for probably a few weeks' time until I get caught up on everything. But it's cool. It's cool. I mean, I always get excited about these crossovers that they've been doing every year, and they seem like they keep up in the stakes, and I'll hopefully touch on it in one of our catching up sections whenever I do get around to this, and I imagine I'll probably get around to it before you get around to it, so. Alright, let's talk about the Punisher. I apologize, for our headphones, users, cause, might be kinda loud. That's our best Jon Bernthal yells, of course, our best Punisher yells, our best Frank Castle yells. So, yeah, Punisher, man. This dropped on Netflix, I guess it would have been, a week and a half ago at this point. Same day as Justice League. I think I mentioned on that episode that we decided to cover that, cause it was a 2-hour movie and this is a 13-hour TV show. So it was naturally easier to cover the shorter thing in the shorter span of time. But we've had plenty of time to take a deep dive into the world of the Punisher, and, it's pretty good. So this is coming to us from, showrunner Steve Lightfoot, who, was an executive producer and, a writer on, Brian Fuller's Hannibal show with, Mads Mikkelsen, and, that was a pretty good show.
It was an outstanding show. Pretty good sells it short. It was an outstanding television show.
I'll defer to your judgment. It stars, we mentioned him a few times already, Jon Bernthal as Frank Castle, the Punisher, and we got a few other kind of new players to the game for the most part. I'd say the principal cast is largely newcomers, so, this is a pretty good show. It kind of picks up after Daredevil season 2, where we got kind of our first introduction to Frank Castle as the Punisher, or at least kind of becoming the Punisher. We had a few run-ins with Daredevil, had a big trial, had a little run-in in prison with Wilson Fisk, and kind of made his escape, and, got his, Punisher get-up, by the end of the show, and, I think that's pretty much kind of where we left him in Daredevil season 2, and then, we kind of pick up here, and, he's not doing as much punishing, as he has been.
And to be fair, he does a fair amount of punishing.
Well, where we pick up, he hasn't been. He's kind of,
I guess you're right.
He's kind of, hung up the skull, if you will, and, but yeah, as is the case with, any movie, TV show, something's got to pull him back in, so, I guess, if we just kind of had to, just talk briefly and generally about this, I mean, how'd you feel about it?
I liked it. I thought it was well choreographed. I enjoyed the character development. I enjoyed, you catch Frank Castle in season 2 of Daredevil, and he's, I don't want to say he's a two-dimensional character because he's not. He's obviously a conflicted character, but you only catch one aspect of him. You know what I mean? You catch what he's conflicted about. And this dives very deeply into his character and what he's all about and why he's conflicted. And, I think it's a very contemporary show and it's very relevant, for a lot of different reasons. And I thoroughly enjoyed the show. I mean, it's probably one of my, definitely one of my favorite Netflix shows that I've watched. It's, I think it's really well made. What was your take on it? Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah, I really like this a lot. I feel like the show, it kind of seems like, I mean, they've been obviously working on this for a while, but it really didn't seem like we got a ton of, big marketing push for this, kind of, certainly like we got with Defenders. And we got a few of those trailers. I know we talked about them on the show in some of our past episodes, and I thought those were all really cool and, really good trailers, but I mean, I guess maybe part of it is, it was supposed to be a big, rollout at New York Comic Con, possibly even a surprise release of it, after the show. And, they kind of canceled all that after, the shootings in Las Vegas. And so I kind of feel like this has just kind of unceremoniously come along, and, maybe, I don't know, I actually watched it a little bit differently than, I guess have watched some of the other shows. I'm usually kind of the binge mode kind of guy where I like to plow through these shows in 2-3 days. And, this one I took my sweet old time. I actually finished up the last episode, the day that we're recording this, which, like I said, is a good week and a half after it initially came out. So, I kind of watched it with a different mindset, and I thought it was really good. I agree with kind of your takeaways on it. I have a couple more I'll add into it as we kind of get a little bit more specific on things that stuck out to me. But I think it was really well done. I think we talked about this in the Defenders, but so I figured we got to mention it here. Title sequence. What'd you think about that?
I thought it was really fucking cool, man. It's monochromatic, and it's essentially, different guns going off the entire intro sequence there. And I don't know, I thought it was really creative, and I thought it was really well done. I enjoyed it a lot. It's probably one of my favorite title sequences. I would say it's probably my second favorite title sequence. I think it's second to Daredevil. I think Daredevil had a really, really cool title sequence, and I think this is right there with it.
I'm on board with that. Really, really cool title sequence. I really like the music in this little sequence here. All right, kind of moving on to, the big things that kind of stuck out to me. You gotta give it up to fucking Jon Bernthal, man. Like,
perfect Punisher. I couldn't cast another person in Punisher that, just fits it as good as this guy. He embodies Frank Castle. We've seen, I think I've seen Thomas Jane, is that his name?
Yeah, Tom Jane played Punisher in a 2004 movie.
Yeah, I've seen him, and then I saw the other guy that played in that really whacked out one.
Yeah, Ray Stevenson, Warzone.
Yeah, and then I did see the original Punisher.
What about my boy Dolph?
I did see Dolph. But this guy here, he is just, I don't know, man.
Bar none, this is the best iteration of the Punisher
without a doubt
we've ever seen, adapted into the live action medium. And it's 100% a credit to Jon Bernthal, who is a fucking tour de force. And, well, not only, he was fucking amazing in Daredevil season 2. He stole the show in every scene he was in there, but give this guy a whole show? Fuck, man. Like, it's not even fair. This guy sells everything, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, but this Punisher, this iteration of the Punisher we get is a very multifaceted character, and I think that is a pretty stark contrast to a lot of iterations that we get of the Punisher, but I'm glad that we got it, written this way, because he just nails every little bit of Frank Castle, his very nature, and like he just absolutely sells everything that this character goes through, what he's thinking, what he's feeling, just little ticks and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if this show works as half as well as it does without him. And that's not to discredit everything about this show, but he's just that fucking good that, he takes it from good to great, at least as far as, anything specifically involving Frank Castle. So I don't think we can say enough about him.
And kudos to the directors too of each individual show or each individual episode, because they take it, you can tell that they're different, but they take special note and special care with the character. And it's, I don't know, man. Like I said, or like you said, he nails it. He is the embodiment of Frank Castle, and it really shows you. You really feel like you're watching somebody there. It's really good. Really good shit.
And that's not to speak ill, certainly, of a lot of the other cast members that we got here. I think the cast across the board, really good. I think, a lot of the characters that we see here are pretty much newcomers, to the Netflix universe. Eben Moss-Bachrach plays Micro, pretty big role in this, and he's amazing.
Yeah, he nails it. You can't, I wouldn't say he's my favorite character, but he's right up there, man. He nails that guy too,
Yeah. And I'd say he's probably one of the biggest, supporting characters in this for sure, besides Frank, and he's great. A lot of his interactions are fantastic with Frank, and who else? Ben Barnes.
Ben Barnes nails it. He is awesome as Billy Russo.
Westworld himself, coming back and playing some Billy Russo here. Really good performance. A character I think is pretty good across the board, for the most part. But his performance especially is really good. And then, Amber Rose Riva, huge role here as, DHS agent Dina Madani.
Yeah, I like Amber.
Yeah, thought she did a really good job. So like I said, I guess I'd probably point to those four. I think those are probably the biggest roles I'd say within the show overall. So yeah, I was really, really pleased with the cast. I thought that was kind of a big standout. Obviously Jon Bernthal kind of being the number one thing for me on that. And, yeah, I mean, so I guess to kind of get a little bit more in depth with kind of, I talked about, this is a multifaceted version of Frank Castle. And I think probably what I mean by that is it's really much more of an emotional character than I think I've ever seen of the Punisher. So, I think, my exposure to the Punisher character, aside from, what we've mentioned with his previous film and television appearances, is the Punisher Max comics. I think Garth Ennis wrote those. And, Frank is I don't want to call him a one-note character, but and to be fair, he's full Punisher and those, that shit. Like, he's
there for one reason.
He's not taking any prisoners, but I'd say, specifically in terms of his personality, he's much more of a stoic, doesn't take any shit kind of guy. And I think that what we see of this Frank Castle here is, he's a broken individual. I mean, Frank Castle's always been a broken individual, but with the layers to this character that we get here, both in terms of kind of what we glean from his flashbacks with his service time, and really his interactions with a lot of the characters here. So Micro particularly really shows a lot of insight into his character. Karen Page, reprising her role from Daredevil, or Deborah Ann Woll coming back and reprising her role from Daredevil as Karen Page. Their connection, it's a really sweet connection. And, it's not an overtly romantic connection or anything like that, but I have a hard time, really picturing, like the comic book Frank having any sort of relationship like that with Karen.
Right.
That we see depicted here. And it's a really sweet, tender relationship between the two where clearly, they both care about each other, they understand each other, and, and it's really refreshing to see something like that kind of depicted on screen. But for me, on one hand, it's kind of odd for me because I think probably, I kind of mentioned how it seemed like this kind of came out unceremoniously, and I think that my expectations for this show were pretty vastly different, I think, than what we ended up getting. And I know I spoke to you a few days ago, kind of when I was about halfway through watching the show, and I was kind of iffy on it. I liked it, but I didn't love it at the time, and I think that's because it wasn't the show I think that I wanted it to be. In the sense that I think I was probably expecting something more akin to the comics where, I think when we last saw Frank at the end of Daredevil season 2, he was the Punisher. Like, it wasn't any ifs, ands, or buts about it. He was the Punisher. He had the full gear. He was, armed to the teeth, got the skull on his chest, and, he's ready to go. And I kind of felt like, all right, the way that Daredevil season 1 handled them gradually building to, the Man in the Mask becoming Daredevil.
Right.
Kind of felt like that same type of transition where, okay, he was Frank Castle, now he's the Punisher. Like now all bets are off. It kind of seemed like they, scaled that back here and went for more of another origin type take on him, which wasn't a bad approach to take, and certainly it's something that if you're treating this as a standalone type thing, you probably get away with not watching Daredevil season 2. I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice, certainly in terms of Frank's characterization, and you'd be missing out on Jon Bernthal's fucking performance. But in terms of kind of it does, I think, very much serve as a standalone experience if you wanted to treat it as such, in the way that it does delve into his background in terms of really kind of coming full circle with his characterization of, reconciling Frank Castle and the Punisher. And it's an interesting approach. And it's one I think that does lend itself to Frank being that more emotional type character, that I talked about. It's just one that I think that caught me off guard. I mean, I think I was just kind of ready and geared up for a shooty bang bang type thing, and that's not this at all.
No, there's definitely a lot more meat on the bone, for sure. Like I said, I know that you said that it didn't quite land with you the first several episodes, but that I'm assuming the latter portion of the season really hit home. Do you think it tied it up in a way to where you really felt satisfied after the end of the season?
Yeah. So, I mean, to answer your question, yes. And to elaborate on that, I think I kind of described it to you I think I'd watched through the first 7 episodes at the time that we talked about it. To me, it felt like a season of Homeland, the television show, featuring, Frank Castle as kind of the main target, I guess, if you will, of the season. And, again, that just wasn't the show I think I wanted. I wanted something more of Frank going around and fucking up crime families and stuff like that. And we got shades of that very briefly. But then it pretty much veers into a totally different direction, just as soon as it hints at anything along those lines. And, so I think I think I just needed to kind of reframe my expectations for it principally. But then I would say by the end, it does kind of round into that show I think that I always wanted it to be, because, the second half of the show is far superior than the first half of this show. And, that's actually kind of, an unusual circumstance for these Marvel Netflix shows where I would say in general, there's usually kind of been a pretty decent sized, drop off in the back half, or at least they're not as good. I mean, well, maybe not. Daredevil season 1, I think, is consistently good all the way throughout, but maybe beyond that, I would say that's probably fair to say. Jessica Jones, a slight drop off. Daredevil season 2, definitely a drop off. I mean, nothing touches those fucking Punisher episodes of the front half of Daredevil season 2. Luke Cage is the poster child for having second half drop offs. I mean, fucking hell. That was insane. The quality drop there. And Iron Fist, I would say, was probably just consistently bad all the way through. I don't know that it got any worse necessarily in the second half, but it was still bad.
Right.
So this is the first one for me that has actually upped the quality and upped the ante in a big bad way. And I think that really sealed the deal for me, in the sense that it kind of, I kind of appreciated what they did with the first few episodes. I fully think that they could have condensed those episodes and made this into maybe an 8 or 10 episode show, and it would have worked just as well, if not better. But there was a lot of characterization and a lot of groundwork that they laid in those first few episodes, and a lot of fun interactions, certainly with like Frank and Micro, that were enjoyable to watch, even if they could have been kind of trimmed down in the interest of time and pacing and stuff like that. But yeah, that second half for me, just the gradual escalation of everything, and then just kind of the culmination of Frank's kind of conquest and journey. I thought it was fucking excellently handled, and I really compelling television to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said before, it's probably one of my favorite Netflix shows. It's right up there with Daredevil season 2. I thought that was great. The choreography, man, I keep going back to it, but he kicks some ass.
Yeah.
I mean, breaking bones. It's just, it's a graphic show. Some of it's actually some of it's just so brutal, it's almost off-putting a little bit, No, my stomach was churning, especially those last handful of episodes. Yes. There's
some serious shit going down. Like, it's like, whoa. Like, I mean, it's not a cable or anything like that, but I kind of feel like, I think, Stephen S. the Knight, the showrunner on, the first Daredevil season, he kind of, it's PG-16 is how he described it. This ain't PG-16.
This is rated R shit.
Like, certainly in terms of violence, it's rated R as fuck. And I guess, the language-wise, it seems like they stayed relatively consistent. I don't remember there being really any sort of, a lot of profane language, but certainly in terms of violence, if this was a movie, it would be rated R, no doubt in my mind.
And it's not even like, yeah, there's some gunplay in it, but the martial arts and he's breaking people's arms and shit, and I mean, he does some significant damage to people with just his hands. And I think he does most of his damage with his hands, actually.
Yeah, a little knife action too.
Yeah, there's some knife action in there. I mean, he's the Punisher, man.
With the occasional shotgun to the face as well.
Yeah, I guess there might be some there's some gunplay violence.
I agree. No, it's everywhere. It's all encompassing. But I do agree. I mean, there's a lot of fisticuffs, definitely, involved in this show, and it's fucking brutal. It's a brutal show. Enough for, I think even both of us are pretty desensitized to shit like this. Even, it's enough for us to kind of be like, hot damn.
That's it. I mean, I think I said, God damn, at one point in the show. And, I mean, I physically said it just because he's just kicking the shit out of some people, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that, in some ways, I don't know that the show tries to portray Frank as I don't think it tries to portray him as a particularly likable character.
They sympathize though.
I would say they would try to make him more of a sympathetic character, and sometimes that's kind of like, well, you certainly get it, you understand it, but, the Punisher's a tough character because you do kind of have to toe the line between trying to make him heroic and not, because, they dealt with this a lot in, Daredevil season 2, the big, ideology conflict between the two of those where killing people is crossing the line and Frank obviously doesn't have any reservations about that and he still doesn't here, but, I think that they do a good enough job of balancing, the fact that, he's such a broken character, and even if there are moments of tenderness where, Frank's obviously got a little bit more to him than we usually see him depicted with, he still has that part of him, that animalistic nature that he can just tap into at any given moment where, he kind of loses control and he becomes the Punisher. And it's in those moments that you kind of you can take a step back, like even when you've seen him kind of be caring and understanding, you still have to take a step back and say, he's not a hero. He isn't. I mean, there's a reason he is the way that he is. It's easy to kind of look at why he is the way he is, but it's still fascinating, I guess, to kind of see that, he's certainly not a bad guy, but he's certainly not a good guy either,
He's plagued with PTSD. I mean, he's like the poster child for that shit. And that's, it's why I think that's why it's a very modern show, because it deals with a lot of things that a lot of people, I think, kind of go through. You know what I mean? It makes it relatable in a way.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought that in general, I thought that the show did a pretty good job of being respectful toward, a lot of thematic content that could have been, certainly controversial, depending on how they handled it. Certainly in terms of PTSD, that's a very major factor, not only in Frank, but in terms of, some other things that happen in the show.
All of the characters, really. I mean,
it's a big part. It's not just Frank. It's a lot of his, his fellow Marines that he served with, and more beyond that as well. But I thought I did a really good job. Not only with that, but I mean, just across the board. So yeah, I mean, in terms of recommendation, you said you'd put it up with Daredevil, and I'd agree with that. I will say, I think that Daredevil season 2 particularly has higher highs, but it does have lower lows than this. I think this show has a pretty consistent floor where it's never bad.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just kind of okay. It's just, I'd say certainly the front half of the season, I wouldn't say any of it's bad. I just think it's very slow developing. Slow moving. Some of it's just kind of laying some groundwork from character development and stuff like that. And that's all well and good. I just do think that it could have been, I think that even if I kind of looked back at it and said, this is what it is, I accept it for what it is, I think that you still could have definitely, made a more succinct version of it that I think that would have probably translated to some better overall pacing. And I think it would have done just as well in terms of building these characters. So yeah, I mean, if I had to stack it up, it's up there with, it's definitely, I'd say it's probably behind Daredevil for me. I think Daredevil still has to be tops for me personally, but, I know when I talked to you, I said that I would still put it below Jessica Jones, and I'd say, having watched the second half, I'd put it above Jessica Jones. So I think it's definitely upper tier Marvel Netflix, for me. I came away very happy, very impressed by the end of it. Definitely left a good impression with that second half for me.
It's gonna be, I don't know. It's really close to put, I mean, I enjoyed the grounded nature of it. In a big way. I know you referenced, what show did you reference? I was listening, but I forgot. Homeland.
Homeland, yeah.
I got, Enemy of the State, that movie with Will Smith.
Yeah, okay.
That's kind of reference I got with it, and I just kind of enjoyed the way they structured the show as a whole. And, I don't know, I don't know if it's necessarily beyond. I really enjoyed the first parts of season 1 of Daredevil 2, season 2. But like you said, this is a more consistent, I think this is a more consistent show. And I'm tempted to say that it's probably my favorite Netflix show. It's really good. Daredevil season 2 is top notch as well. Don't get me wrong, okay? But I thoroughly enjoyed the consistent nature of this show, and I thoroughly enjoyed the characterization of everyone in it. I thought it did outstanding things. I really liked it. So I would probably say it's number 1 in my book. If not, it would be a close. I haven't seen season 2 of Daredevil in quite some time. It might be worth revisiting so I can have a definitive opinion about it, but, I definitely enjoyed this one a whole lot. It might be my favorite.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, that's good stuff. Ready to do some spoilers on this?
Yeah, we can do some spoilers.
Alright guys, we're talking full spoilers from Marvel's The Punisher on Netflix. Go watch it. And then come back and listen to this.
Did you get that part I was referencing the other night?
Yeah. Okay, so I kind of talked about Frank and Micro's relationship. Those two are fucking amazing together, first of all. But they got this little subplot brewing where Frank, under the guise of Pete Castiglione, has been he's been kind of keeping an eye on Micro's family / maybe keeping Micro in check. Whatever the motivations there, slightly unclear, but he's been schmoozing it up a little bit with Micro's wife, and some serious sexual tension going on. I think I told you the day I was like, look man, it's just a matter of time till someone jumps someone bones. And I think I told you, I was like, I have a pretty good feeling of who it's gonna be. Of course it was gonna be her jumping his bones. I felt like it would have been very out of character for Frank to kinda, pull a fast one on, both Micro and, his wife at the time. But, yeah, that was a pretty fun sequence,
where he's drunk.
Yeah, so that was, Micro and, Frank together, they got this kind of husband-wife kind of dynamic, very domestic relationship, and their interactions are fucking spectacular.
To create a frame of reference, if you haven't seen the show yet, then you probably shouldn't be listening to this section. But, David Lieberman has been in hiding for a year. The government thought they killed him. Well, they did not, and he reached out to Frank Castle, and now Frank Castle, who is also thought to be dead, and Micro are working together to try to seek revenge on the man. So, anyways, it's like you said, their interactions are spectacular. They're great, and they feel very authentic too. They do a very good job of embodying the characters that they're set out to portray, and it makes for a fun time. And I tell you who else I was impressed with was Billy Russo. Billy Russo was, I think he nailed that character too. Ben Barnes.
Prince Caspian.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I liked him a lot. And I didn't know if I would or not. For kind of the first half of the season, he's Frank's best friend. I feel like, going in, I pretty much knew he was going to be a bad guy because I knew who his comic book counterpart was. So it was just a matter of time until they kind of was like, no, he's a shitbag. So that was pretty obvious. I think anyone that watched Westworld was probably waiting for him to be like, oh, he's a shitbag here too. Gee, I'm surprised. Yeah, he was really good though. I ended up really enjoying his character. And in some ways he was kind of the anti-Punisher, at least in terms of, by the end when they have their big, showdown, on the carousel. And, Ben Barnes was really fucking good. I thought he did a really good job playing the kind of the pretty boy character, and, it puts up this facade that kind of conceals someone that's been through a tough life, and,
They did a good job of making him a sympathetic character as well.
Yeah, I thought they did. I think we probably could have used a little bit more. We saw his mother, and, obviously, he went through some shit as a kid, but it kind of didn't, I don't know. I mean, he was a villain, so I'm not trying to sympathize with him, and I think they did a pretty good job of at least establishing kind of why, he would be, complicit, and...
He was a villain. Yeah, he was not
well, okay, yeah.
That one dude was a major shitbag.
What, fucking Agent Orange?
Yes.
Yeah, fucking William Rollins. Did you kill the target? Did you kill the target? Fuck off, bitch. Take your eye out.
But Ben Barnes, he plays the guy that, grew up in a hard life, and he says it a couple of times, and I think it makes him incredibly sympathetic. I thought, I argue a different point. I thought it made him very relatable. You know what I mean? He wants to overcome he overcomes his problems a different way than Frank.
Well, like I said, they're framed as kind of in some ways opposites of each other.
Right.
But he said there's understandable motivations, but, Frank has some sort of code, where at least I think you can frame him as an anti-hero. I don't think there's any realm of reason where you could frame Billy Russo as an anti-hero.
No, he's definitely not an anti-hero. He's definitely a villain, but...
Well, I said, so, I get that, they did certainly provide enough backstory in him that it didn't feel like him just being an asshole for being the sake of an asshole.
Right.
But he's still an asshole. He's still making money off of smuggling heroin and the body of dead Marines and soldiers and stuff like that. Like, that's fucked any way you spin it. So I don't know. I mean, for me, I don't, I get that I definitely think they put some motivations in there, but, it didn't, for someone that was Frank's best friend, it kind of seemed like I think we probably could have seen more to that relationship, I guess, for that betrayal to land as much as I think it maybe was intended to. And I would say Jon Bernthal fucking sold the shit out of that. Don't get me wrong. If anything works about it, it's because of that. But I think that, well, it's one of those things, and I think a lot of the stuff with Kandahar, is referenced in Daredevil season 2. I mean, we see Colonel, Schoonover, is the blacksmith, I think, and by the end of Daredevil season 2. So that's kind of the big guy, the big target that Frank's after. And it's been a while since I've watched that, admittedly, but, so we kind of see that, and it kind of seemed like maybe things had been resolved, and obviously there was a lot more to it as they kind of either retconned it here or they just kind of expanded upon. Again, I'd have to go back and probably watch that to see how much they kind of pulled from, but it never really seemed like there was any indication that Billy Russo was a part of Frank's life until kind of at some point in the season, and then it builds to this big conflict between the two of them, the big personal showdown at the end, which again, I enjoyed all of it, and I think that both actors, did a really good job of selling it too, but I just think there probably just could have been more there to kind of make us feel the impact of that beyond just, two actors giving some really good fucking performances.
Yeah.
All right. So, PTSD kind of being a big thematic part of this. I mean, I feel like we got to touch on Lewis's character, where, he's someone that, he attends Curtis's meetings for just trying to deal with the PTSD and the grief. And, he kind of gets warped, somewhat by the O'Connor character into being a terrorist. I mean, he goes from just someone that obviously had a tough time in readjusting and reconciling his position in the world, and for him to kind of go through this very, very dark arc of transitioning from someone just kind of struggling and trying to figure, his way out to, crafting bombs to, trying to kill senators and reporters and stuff like that. I mean, that was a really fucking dark turn for his character, and it was a really, really interesting subplot for them, I think, to integrate into this. And certainly, you watch the show and it's kind of just like, well, that's definitely why they canceled their New York Comic-Con appearance, because this is a topic that unfortunately is more relevant than ever.
Right.
So for them to kind of hit upon something as, I guess, relevant, as this,
even Frank Castle's character, and I mean, not to take away from Lewis, because that was a incredibly relevant topic and a incredibly relevant character, but even Frank Castle's character, you almost had to advertise and promote with kid gloves, because of what he does. It's handled in such a way that I think, they do a good job, but it is delicate, content that they're dealing with, because it can be definitely taken and warped out of proportion. And, in today's day and age, it's difficult content to kind of put out, without being ridiculed and
Yeah. I mean, it really, I mean, in terms of kind of comparing Frank to Lewis, you could kind of almost see them as two sides of the same coin where.
Absolutely.
I mean, you mentioned it, they both have PTSD and they, obviously deal with it in different ways. I mean, it's not to say that what Frank does is right. I mean, he's still killing people and it's pretty simple to say that killing is wrong, but at least, I guess if you want to put it as such, Frank can, channel it and redirect it towards people that are quote unquote, worthy of being killed. And obviously that's very flimsy to work with, but compared to certainly Lewis, who's taken the lives of innocent people, you can kind of see, the way that they become corrupted or, not even corrupted, but, the way they become
warped,
twisted and warped. Yeah. By their experiences and stuff like that. It's really fascinating. And I thought it was really interesting that they chose to make this Lewis character, not only a pretty big subplot, but then the way they really kind of integrated it into the show at large with him basically, that big episode 10 where, we see kind of the different perspectives of him, basically storming and attacking Senator Karen Page, Frank's intervention with that and, their little, confrontation at the end and, eventually Lewis, taking his own life at the end there. Yeah. It was tough. I mean, I thought that stuff was, that was really, thematic content that was really heavy, to touch on. And I thought they did a pretty good job of kind of touching on that and really kind of, making it not just about making a statement about something along those lines but really kind of integrating into the show, as a whole.
Yeah, they did a good job of, portraying the duality between the two characters. Like you said, how they are similar, the two sides of the same coin. And I don't know. Lewis was they're both very sad characters, even Frank. It's easy to feel sympathetic for Frank because he's got so much screen time, but Lewis was sad. He was a sad guy.
Yeah. That's what it was tough to watch because, you could see him kind of
just struggling. You see the struggle between everybody.
His worst impulses, getting pulled out and, every turn it just takes is just darker and darker and darker. And you kind of see it sucks because, obviously you see his struggle and it's hard to understand because, he kind of feels alone. But then, to see him kind of go down that very dark and twisted arc, it's tough to watch because it seems like, it's a character that you want him to be able to reconcile. And, he's the Curtis character, he tries to break through with him. And even when he's under duress, towards the end directly, he's still trying to break through to them. And
he gets beat the fuck up with his own leg.
Yeah.
That was brutal as fuck, man. I can't believe they did that. That was so fucked up.
Yeah, it was. I gotta say though, I'm fucking glad that Curtis made it out. As soon as I saw him, he's fucking dead. Netflix has a trend with killing, basically every older, but usually it's an older black character that usually bites the bullet, but, Curtis is obviously not an older, but he was black, and I was just like, please Netflix, for the love of Christ, do not do this. It just seemed like an obvious choice, and they almost went there a couple times. He definitely got roughed up, not only by Lewis but Billy towards the end there as well. So maybe spend some less time with the shit magnet Frank, huh?
That's it.
But I'm glad he made it out. I was saying, fucking Madani got shot in the head, right? She still made it out.
Yeah, Madani got shot in the head, man. That's
she's
tough
as nails, man.
Out of all the characters in the show, I thoroughly enjoyed Madani, okay, but her partner, I did not really enjoy their interactions. They felt a lot more forced, I thought.
Yeah, it kind of just felt TV show,
It did. It did.
I think that's a lot of the first half of the show is it's Homeland Light, and you get a lot of those two playing off each other. You get Madani trying to unravel this conspiracy, which we already know what happened. So she's playing catch up with the audience, and so it's just not fun to watch.
But I don't think that's to the detriment of Madani's actress, though.
No, I agree.
because when her partner dies, I felt for Madani a whole lot. I was like, oh fuck, I can't believe they killed him. She's pissed. She's all messed up. She did a good job of, embodying her character. I think it's to the detriment to her supporting actor. I didn't quite grasp his character. I think he's probably the weakest link of the whole show. If I had to point out a weakest link, I think it'd be him.
Yeah, I mean,
even the kids, I enjoyed the child actors, Micro's kids.
Yeah.
I enjoyed all of them.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I probably could have mentioned this when we were talking about Micro, but I gotta say, I was really fucking happy to see that family reunited, man. Like, like, it was tough watching Micro, like, spend the whole show watching them on his camera, and, Frank starts kissing his wife, and he starts losing she starts kissing
his
Frank,
wife,
I suppose.
yeah, exactly.
He starts losing his shit about that, and just to see him kind of like, always kind of, on edge because of that. And, it was a really satisfying moment to kind of see them all kind of, reunited. It was all good. I really enjoyed their whole dynamic. I thought Frank's dynamic with that family was done really well too, as a kind of a surrogate family for a little while there. Those were fun interactions. And again, more against the type, in the sense that it's not really what I'd expect to see at a Punisher show of all things, but it was well done.
It was good.
Yeah, so, alright, what would you say your favorite episode was if you had to pick, or if you can't remember a specific episode, what was your favorite kind of sequence, moment, anything like that?
There's definitely a couple. I think the biggest one that comes to mind is, the first biggest one that comes to mind is when he dons the vest again. They come to get Frank Castle and Micro, and he does some work, and he kicks some serious ass, and
he John Wicks those motherfuckers.
Yes. And it was incredible. I thought that was awesome. But I also enjoyed the interrogation scene with him too, when he was tied up and Agent Orange is beating the shit out of him, and it keeps going back and forth to to where he's with his wife. And, I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was really well done. And then of course he goes, super brutal on him. And that was kind of hard to stomach. That was a little extreme. But it was definitely cool. Also, whenever you first get introduced to Micro, I thought that was great too, where he was on top of the diner. I thought that was cool. What about you? What did you like about it? What are some scenes to write home about?
First of all, anytime Frank Castle is eating eggs or drinking coffee, he's just fucking stabbing at it with his fork in a very forceful manner. And, it just makes me want to eat some fucking eggs and drink some coffee. I don't know what it is, but Jon Bernthal has definitely got that part of his acting down pat. But, more seriously, episode 11 you mentioned where he starts painting that skull on his vest. He wears the vest, and then he just absolutely tears, that Anvil team apart when they're invading Micro's little, basement. That was probably the most Punisher-esque sequence we got in the entire show, and they knocked it out of the park for sure.
He grabs that machine gun and starts screaming. You know what I'm talking about? He starts shooting the pillar.
It's pretty cool. I was, pretty kind of like, what? When he tossed a severed head into a group of people with a fucking grenade attached to it. Who does that?
And you know how he chopped it off, right? He chopped it off with a fucking Bowie knife?
Yeah, with a fucking knife, man. I don't think he had a machete stashed around, otherwise he probably would have taken that and used that to good effect, man. Yeah. That was some crazy ass shit. That was probably my favorite sequence. We got a handful of punishing sequences, but I think that was kind of the big one.
He beats the shit out of the guy with the hammer up there in the construction site.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I'd say the first episode was really good too, the first episode almost feels like a different show entirely. Because it's just kind of Frank just beating the shit out of a wall with the sledgehammer for really most of the episode. That first episode, it kind of hints at, they talk about the Nucci family and stuff, and it seems like, all right, we're going to get into some serious, comic booky Punisher shit. I'm down for this. And then I think I mentioned it before in non-spoilers, it just kind of veers off into a different direction. And as it turned out, I'm cool with that, but I definitely feels like a very different, approach, to the character than we ended up getting. And I mean, obviously him, basically burning the skull vest before the first set of opening credits is probably a tip off that, hey, this is not the show that you're expecting. And, like I said, once I reconciled that, I was definitely down with that. But, season 2, you want to see season 2?
Absolutely.
What kind, you have any kind of things you might want to see in season 2? I don't know how well versed you are with the Punisher and stuff like that, but I mean, obviously we saw Frank left, Billy in a very disfigured state. His face might even resemble a jigsaw puzzle, if you will.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. So, this season was Frank's revenge on the people that did, the people that killed his family. And completing that, I think it'd be interesting to see Jigsaw's revenge on Frank for fucking up his face. I think that'd be kinda...
Would you want to see that immediately, or would you rather have like a little cool off period and then get into that maybe with the season 3 though?
To be honest with you, I think it would be interesting if we didn't know that it was Jigsaw pulling the strings that was happening in season 2, and then he was the big bad of season 2.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, as I say, I kind of want to see, I feel like I kind of want to see Frank just kind of be more, comic booky in terms of like taking down crime families. But I guess I think about it. I guess we got a bit of that in season 2 of Daredevil, didn't we?
We did.
What was it, the Irish that he like just totally laid waste to?
Right.
Like right at the beginning of the season. So I guess we got shades of that already. So, but I still think that they kind of left some seeds for that, for them to pick on. Certainly in that first episode where they talk about the Nucci, the construction guys, robbed from, and he kind of, he fucks up that whole little, poker game wherever they were playing that, he kills all those guys. I feel like there's probably some repercussions they could explore if they wanted to pick up on that thread. So, there's places they could take it. If you had to bring any other Netflix characters into the fold, would you do that, or would you want to keep kind of Frank on his own?
I think it'd be interesting to have, I thoroughly enjoyed the first, arc of season 2 of Daredevil with Daredevil and Frank. I think that would be I think that would be interesting to revisit.
Have Daredevil come back in?
Yeah, kind of try to keep that moral compass on him. You know what I mean? And try to have that contrast. Cause that contrast was present throughout this season with Micro. Micro always had reservations about how he, did his thing, and it provides, it provides a staple for the character, a sort of a stake in reality and what's right and what's wrong, and it keeps the character relatable, so I don't know how they'll find it in season 2, but it would definitely be cool to have Daredevil present to provide that, that moral stake in reality, I think.
Yeah. What about Danny Rand?
I would enjoy seeing Frank beat the shit out of Danny Rand.
Oh, I know he will. That's a given.
I definitely think that would be cool.
All right. You got anything else to add on Punisher?
No, other than just stream this shit. It's incredible. I did have one point that, I think we talked about it briefly. And I'm curious to see if anybody else had any comments about it or what have you. So I just wanted to say it, but, I streamed this thing on my TV, and I noticed that it had an artificial sharpness to it. I didn't go back and revisit the other, Marvel Netflix stuff to see if it was present in those shows as well. But it looked like it was artificially over sharpened, and I don't know if they were just going for a, artsy look or what have you. It's actually something that I'm going to research a little bit into, but I did notice that it looked over sharpened, all of it. So I don't know if that was my TV, if maybe it's the settings that I have on the TV or not, but I'm kind of curious to see if anybody else has noticed it at all. But that's a complete side note on whatever. But anyways, I digress. No, I have nothing else to add.
Perfect. Well then, what do you have to add on account of what you've been doing, since we recorded our last episode?
Well, since we've recorded our last episode, actually while I was deathly ill, I watched In Bruges.
Fucking In Bruges. It's an inanimate fucking object. You're an inanimate fucking object!
Yeah, that was great.
You're a cunt. You've always been a cunt, Harry.
It was a pretty great show. Or a great movie.
Yeah, everyone's fucking fantastic in that. Was that Colin Farrell, Ray Fine, who's Brendan Gleeson. Yeah, they're all great.
Excellent movie. And I anticipate I'm gonna watch Seven Psychopaths in preparation for our next episode. Wink, wink, wink. We'll talk about it a little bit later, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched that. I've been watching a lot of Dragon Ball Z lately, courtesy of Henry. So I've been getting into that. The new season of Dragon Ball Super, I guess is what it's properly called. I think that may have been it. I can tell everybody that, hopefully you guys will notice a difference in my recording quality because I purchased a new microphone. Should be here by Friday. So the next episode that we record, I will be recording it on a new mic, an AT2035, I think is what it's called. But I had to buy a mixer and everything else because it doesn't work like a USB microphone. So hopefully there'll be a discernible difference between my recording quality. But other than that, that's all I got, man. What about you? What have you been up to?
Working, sleeping, working, a little bit more sleep.
What about some editing? You've been doing
I've done some editing, yeah. Can't forget about the editing. Well, I paid you a visit for I guess pretty much a night, I guess, as it turned out. Had some rock band and, some good fun.
I fell asleep playing guitar on the couch.
Well, you had to work the next day, so it's understandable. And, I mean, really, I haven't really been up the whole lot. Spent Thanksgiving at work, which was actually not bad, honestly. But, it did, force me to be in front of a computer for like 12 hours. So I, went a little overboard with the Black Friday shopping on Amazon and Best Buy and such. So I got a handful of games and a handful of movies, for cheap. So I'm hoping that, some of the stuff that I've already seen, some of it I haven't seen. So, that's really all I've been up to is spending more money than I should. I'm not going to elaborate on that further, but hopefully the movies that I bought, I will sit down and watch so I can talk about them on a future week.
Yeah, I swear to God, if I go over there and, they're all unopened, I'm going to be a little disappointed.
Yeah, well, I don't make any promises. Depends on when you come. But, I'm hoping that I can, take advantage of some free time and, start cracking down and watching some movies. Really that's it for me as far as kind of what I've been up to.
Oh, something else I've been up to. On a side, sorry to interject like that, but I did catch the first episode of the Runaways.
Oh, you watched it? Okay, cool. How was it?
I thought it was okay. I'm interested to see where it goes. I kind of got, CW-ish vibes from the first episode. It kind of felt like that.
Sweet, right up my alley.
Yeah, you kind of get that, I don't know, whatever vibe that is that you get from CW shows. I kind of got it.
Lots of attractive people being very attractive.
Yeah, you got some attractive young people, and they're they kind of haven't figured their shit out yet, and just kind of seems like a little bit of teenage drama kind of shit, but, seems like it could be interesting. I don't really want to say one way or the other how I feel about it yet, because I don't really feel one way or the other. I haven't watched another episode yet, if that tells you anything. And it's been a day, so I guess it hasn't been that long, but, instead of watching another episode, I picked up Dragon Ball Super, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna give it a whirl. I think Hulu dropped the first 3 episodes and then they're doing a Tuesday release, for all the subsequent episodes. So, I'm so behind on everything else that I may just wait until it's closer to the end of the season and then just kind of try to binge it all. TBD on that front, but, it's coming back on Friday, right?
Yes.
Agents of motherfucking shit!
It's gonna be cool. This is it. I think, right? This is supposed to be it, the last season?
May or may not be. Probably, but not confirmed. But, yeah, it looks cool. I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's such a fucking show. It really is.
They're getting a little spacey, a little cosmic with this next one. If the trailer or whatever we had to go on was something to go off of, it's definitely gonna be fucking cool, man.
Yeah. Well, that's on my radar. I mean, that's something that I think that I'll probably watch the first episode, maybe when it airs, probably this weekend at least, if nothing else, so I can try to keep relatively current with that. And I'm sure you will as well.
Yeah, I think that's a show we probably can talk weekly about. We haven't had one yet that we've both been watching, so it's gonna be,
that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that dynamic plays into the podcast, cause I think we're both interested in that show quite a bit, so.
Cool. Alright, that's it for me. Unless you feel like adding more and interrupting me again, I think we can wrap this up.
That's it, man.
Alright, so thank you guys for tuning in to Watch, Review, Repeat. We're in episode 17 right now. I feel like we're getting a feel for it, and hopefully you guys agree. So again, thanks for coming back. If this is your first time listening, go back and check out some of our old episodes for any of the movies, TV shows you might have caught, and, see what our opinions and thoughts are. If you agree, you disagree, have any sort of thoughts you want to share, you are more than welcome to. We really encourage you to do so. Our email account is, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. That's one way to contact us. For every other way to contact us, you can check out watchreviewrepeat.com. That'll get you to our Twitter, to our Facebook, so you can talk to us there. I am at Cbro360 on Twitter if you want to talk to me personally. Still working on convincing Andrew to get signed up on the Twitter sphere. So no handle for him to share just yet, but that's okay. If you did enjoy, if you enjoy what you hear, leave us a review. If you don't enjoy us, also leave us a review. We welcome any and all feedback, through whatever medium you're listening to us to. So iTunes, Google Play, Facebook, anything and everything. And our intro and outro track, almost forgot, provided by, Kevin MacLeod over at Incompetech.com. It's called Mechanolith, and it's licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And next week, we're bringing it back, the double feature. What are we talking about, Andrew?
Talking about Coco and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah, and the latter is the same director that directed In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths, just to kind of tie that back into what we talked about with our catching up section. And so, good reviews for that one. Came, very highly recommended, by my brother Jordan, our guest on our Blade Runner episode. And, so we added this to the list. We were going to talk about Coco. It's been out since, I think Thanksgiving week, so it'll be out for a little while by the time we, get that episode up. But, good reviews for that one as well. So I think it'll be a really good double feature. We look forward to recording that. We're talking about the Avengers Infinity War trailer. I think it's going to be a really good fucking episode. That's what I'm saying. So, that's it for this week, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and come back next week.
See you later.